when it comes to relationships, you have heard that saying of a woman checks out so early before the relationship is done. You know, by the time you guys are breaking out, she had checked out 3 years ago. And you guys think it's just a theory we're floating around. No, people actually do check out of relationships before they actually end. I'll give you case study. We had the recent drama that was brought on. You guys opened Pandora's box. Obviously, we have to discuss it. Koku and Martin. We can clearly see that some people in the partnership checked out much earlier than the others. And then when the divorce finally happens, or the separation finally happens, one person is like, me, I was sidelined. Me, miapa. You took me for idiots because why am I feeling like this? So, how do you tell the signs, or how can you tell that your significant other is actually shutting down emotionally in the relationship and fix it before it comes to an end? And I think the biggest indicator is when they just start stonewalling you. You know, things that they would have been excited about or things that they would have wanted to talk about, they no longer engage. You know, something happens, they're like, okay, cool. If your significant other has always been bothering you about, hey, could you come early today? Hey, could we have dinner today? And that has been the chorus for the last 10 years. And then all of a sudden, they're just not interested. Ukuje 4 a.m., ukuje 5 a.m. After ukuje 3 days later, you won't get none out of them. They'll just be quiet. They're like, okay, cool, let's live our life. If your significant other is always talking about, hey, can we do this together? Can we go to this place? You know, they're always on you about something, and then suddenly they just don't want to talk about it anymore. Or you bring up something like, oh yeah, I'm not interested. Or as Mato had said, he says, can I pay a vacation for you? Or can we go somewhere to get away from the kids? And she's like, I'm not interested. And you're like, where's this coming from? It's all you've ever wanted. They're shutting down. You just don't know it.
Yeah, and I think communication, it really dries up. Mostly for the most basic things. Like your conversations used to be so involving, so checking up on each other. How was your day? How was your rah, rah, rah? You're always checking up on each other. But nowadays, when you send them a text, kabla respond. It's a very slow response, very slow reply. Oftentimes, when you actually have communication, it's about bills. It's about, by there, did you pay for XYZ? By there, the kids are going to XYZ. By there, da 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 da. It's very transactional, a conversation. And most of the time, if and when it is not about a responsibility, an errand, a bill, there's barely any conversation or communication. It's just a complete shutdown, except for the bare basics. This is someone who's really, really gone off, and they're plotting, but they're not necessarily sure where they're at. They just know, this is not working out the way I want it to work out, and they're looking for an exit plan. But until then, we gotta pay the bills, honey. So they keep the conversation as purpose based as possible, as errand based as possible. So be mindful of that and look out for that.
Yeah, and also when any talk about the future or future plans no longer involves you. What could have been, hey, it would be so wonderful if we went on a Euro tour. It would be marvelous if we went on vacation to somewhere. And all of a sudden they're talking about I am planning to go to Pakistan next year. I've actually seen a few Vietnam videos and I am sold on a vacation to Vietnam. How got involved anywhere? Simply because they don't see a future with you. And it's usually so subtle. And here's the thing, I'm so toxic, I'm gonna spot it, okay? The minute you say I instead of we, I'm like, when did we break up? Who is she? Who are you seeing right now? Even if it's a slip of the tongue, I get so pissed about it. I'm like, we need to talk, okay? Earlier on in your conversation, you said I instead of we, okay? Are we breaking up, okay? But that's just my insecure attachment. I don't know about y'all. But when the conversation no longer involves you, when it comes to plans of the future, that's a huge indicator that they have checked out of the relationship.
Yeah, and there's also like a cycle of escalating frustration and loneliness, especially in the form of you want to talk, you're like, hey, let's talk. And the other person is like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that now. So every time one person wants to have a conversation, the other person is very quick to shut it down. And then the other person wants to have a chat, this one is very quick to shut it down. You end up becoming really frustrated because like every time now you want to bring something up, it's like, let's talk about it later. Let's talk about it in a bit. I'm kind of busy right now. Can we talk about it? That constantly being just like stonewalled can lead to a huge level of just extreme exhaustion and just anger and frustration because you're like, why should I even bring it up? They don't want to talk about it. Or jumping gun, you're like, even if I try, they'll do XYZ. You know, you're already predicting what they are like, and that can lead now to extreme loneliness because you're like, you really want to talk about this, but you know they're going to shut you down, so it's okay, never mind, I'll just figure it out on my own. Now you're starting to lead a very quietly lonely life of figuring things out on your own and not expecting the other person to come through for you, which is so sad in a marriage, in a relationship, in a partnership. It's very, very sad.
Mm-hmm. And also, if you guys are not aligned even emotionally, or you don't feel like talking to each other, there's no communication, there's a lot of, frustration and resentment, obviously your sex life is going to suffer. And when y'all are going months without bumping uglies, that is a problem. That is a huge problem. And I hate to quote pastors, okay? But there's this one I saw on TikTok the other day, and she said, if the bed in your marriage is not shaking, then something is going wrong somewhere. However, all these indicators we have given you could not specifically or necessarily mean that the relationship is coming to an end. They could be triggered by other factors. This person could be unwell, this person could be having stress from their workplace, this person could be dealing with a lot of things personally that they've not shared with you. So before you jump into the conclusion, the episode is full circle. Before you start that conclusion of, yeah, they don't want to be with me anymore, can you try and figure out if there's something going on with them before deciding to make it about yourself?
Yeah, and there's also that thing where oftentimes you will mirror what your friends are going through, right? You're hanging out with your friend, they're going through like a really terrible state in their marriage, in their relationship, in their partnership, and every time you have a chat, it's like you're drawing from that negativity as an empath, as the empath you draw from that, and unfortunately you carry that stuff home. I think it's very, very important to try as much as you can, especially when you see someone's going through like a situation. It's good to maybe distance yourself a little bit. Maybe don't be overly involved unless the person is churning up this information at you. And also, please shake it off before you get into your house, right? Just, okay, yeah, that's their relationship, that's their stuff. I have nothing to do with that. My partner has done nothing, including limited to or similar to. So shake it off before you get home, that bad energy, because you come at your person with such bias. You're like, maybe you're looking out for these plot holes that you've heard your friend is going through. So please be mindful of that stuff as you're meeting up with friends and sharing your relationships and the progress in your relationships or the lack thereof. Please be mindful that you don't bring that stuff home. Yeah,
exactly. True that. That was our show today. Have a lovely weekend and tell us where you guys are going out tonight or what your plans are for the weekend. My name is Tori Faye. See you next week.
I'm gonna see you tomorrow. I know I just have editing for the weekend. How fun! See you next week. Bye.